Okay, first, Michael, we're going to look at your chipping technique at the beginning of the session before we worked on any of the fundamentals. Now we're going to take a look at Tiger Woods hit a chip shot. Tiger is known as having one of the best short games in golf. Now let's look at the chipping technique in a couple of the key positions in a side-by-side comparison. First, let's look at Tiger's stance. He has his feet much closer together than you. Anytime you have a chip or a pitch shot or any swing that's less than a full swing, you're going to want to put your feet closer together to give you more control. You don't need power, you need control and finesse. The second thing that Tiger does is that he puts a little bit more weight on his left foot than he does his right foot. You're going to see that these legs are kind of tilted and angled toward the target. Also, Tiger is choking down a little bit, and I can't tell from this view if you are, but I think we talked about it. Anytime you don't have a full swing, choke down a little bit. That allows you to stand a little bit closer to it, because you can easily see that Tiger is standing closer to the golf ball than you are. Tiger has a nice extension in both arms, and so do you. You have a really good arm position here. You have your triceps sitting on top of your pectoral muscles. That's what Tiger's doing. That's a good fundamental to have. So that's very good. Also, Tiger has a slight shaft lean. His hands are just a little bit in front of the ball, which is another important point. You want to try to have the low point of your swing in front of the golf ball. You want to hit down on the golf ball. You don't want to hit level or swing up on the ball. And the way you hit down is by having your hands in front of the ball, having the lowest point of your arc in front of the ball. So when the club arrives at the ball, you don't want it to be finished going down. You want there to be a few more inches of downward angle left in the swing. Now we're going to take it to the end of the backswing for this chip shot. Now you have a little bit longer shot than he does, and so you've taken it back a little bit further. Your hands are just a little above the waist, and your left arm is here. Tiger is here. You have kept a good left arm extension, just like Tiger has. That's excellent. That's very good. You have a little bit more of an angle between the shaft and the left arm because you've taken it back a little bit more. You've had more time to hinge the wrist more. Tiger didn't take it back quite as far, and so his wrists have not hinged quite as much. But in both cases, you want to have some wrist hinge when you hit little chips and pitch shots. It's not a pure putting stroke. So if it's a really small swing, it'll have a little bit of wrist hinge. If it's a little bit bigger swing, it'll have more wrist hinge. The other thing to point out is while Tiger is swinging the club back to the right, he still wants to keep his weight on his left side. In fact, it almost appears he's increased his weight on that left side. This hip has even moved a little bit further toward the target. That's a very important fundamental when you're hitting a chip shot. You want to set up with your weight on your left side, but most important, keep your weight on that left side even when you're swinging it back to the right. You never want to rock to the right when you're hitting these short chip shots. The reason for that is, and I mentioned in the one position, it's critical that you keep the low point of your swing in front of the golf ball. And there's two ways you do that. One is you want to make sure your hands are in front of the golf ball at the setup. And the second way of keeping the low point of your swing arc in front of the ball is to make sure your weight is in front of the golf ball. when you put your weight in on the left side, you put the low point in front of the golf ball. We're now going to look at your position right before impact. And I've drawn a yellow line right straight up from where the golf ball is on the ground. And the first thing I want to point out that you do really well, notice how Tiger's hands cross this line before the club head does. In other words, he is guaranteeing himself to have his hands in front of the golf ball at impact. You need to have a shaft lean. You need to have that shaft leaning towards the target when you hit the ball. Here's your shaft. Your hands are in front of the ball. Your hands are in front of the yellow line, as Tiger's is. So that's very important. Okay, now you're hitting the ball, and your hands have moved even further forward. So you have a nice shaft lean, which is going to help you hit down on the ball and get the ball up, get the face of the club under the ball so it gets up in the air. So that's very good. I like the fact that you've kept your arms straight as you come through here, just like Tiger has. So that's very good. Now we're going to look at the first post-impact position. And the key thing that I look for in this position is the angle behind the right wrist. You want the back of the right hand to have a little bit of a angle backwards. You don't want to throw the right hand under the club, under the ball. You don't want to flip it. You want to hold the back of the right hand in that angle so that the shaft should be coming back just a little bit as you go through the ball. And you have thrown that just a little bit. It appears that the back of your right hand has angled this way a little bit. And you're starting to cup this left wrist a little bit. As we take the swing even further through the follow through, you've cupped the back of this left wrist even more, and this right hand is flipped through even more. And you can kind of see how your left arm is starting to fly away from the left side. So that's a fundamental that we'll need to work on. Overall, your chipping technique is pretty good. I like to work on the correct form of technique. In other words, a fundamental has a look to it. If the look isn't there, then the fundamental isn't there. So the first look that I want you to establish is your setup. I want you to develop that closer stance, have your feet a little bit closer together, and have more weight on your left side, and have your setup look more like Tiger. Then once you have that, we're going to work on how your hands need to come through impact with more of a shoulder and arm swing and not flip those hands quite so much. Now we're going to look at your putting stroke, and this is your setup. I really like your putting stroke. You tilt over the ball, your eyes are right over the ball. You got a good solid foundation, good stance. You have your elbows into your sides. That's very good. The other thing I like that you do with your putting stroke is that you hold your finish while you're looking at the ball roll to the hole. You putt through the ball, your putter comes to a complete stop, and you hold it there into that finishing position. That is excellent. You want to continue doing that. A lot of recreational golfers, they hit the ball and after the putter gets to the end, it's pulled back, it recoils, and you don't do that. That's excellent.